to the Unlock Wellness Podcast. I'm Dr. Casey, and I'm here with Dr. Edward Camacho, and I'm super excited to have him on. He is a licensed chiropractic physician in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Colorado. He is the author of Athlete 25 Project, and that's available on Amazon.com, so make sure to check that out. International Certified Chiropractic Sports Physician. He's also a former secretary for New Jersey Chiropractic Council on Sports Injuries and Rehabilitation, on the Medical Advisory Board for Human and Health Performance, and also a contributing author, weightlifting expert for OLift Magazine. And Dr. Camacho is a really inspiring doctor. He has a really inspiring story about his own health journey. And even though it hasn't been an easy path, he's using what he's learned about strength and perseverance to inspire and help other young athletes. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited. It's going to be awesome.
It's going to be great. So, so if you just want to give people a little insight into your story, and we'll just jump right into it.
Absolutely. So obviously I guess the common answer that most people give is, where do I start? Because it is a journey. It's been pretty awesome. It's also been pretty crazy and extremely stressful. But grew up in North Jersey, decided to go to Penn State, and I actually became a student athletic trainer. And after my short time doing that, I realized that this is not the career for me, mostly because of the amount of time and hours that these trainers were putting in and never really spending time with their family. I saw as an issue in the future I wanted for myself. Long story short, Palmer Chiropractic College came to Penn State to talk about the opportunity and spark interest for kids who possibly want to think about becoming a chiropractor. The only reason I went to the meeting was to get the free pizza. And it turned out I was actually the only person after that meeting who ran up to the front, dressed like an idiot, wearing flag football attire, an eye block on my face, pizza in my one hand, another slice kind of half in my mouth, saying, I want to do this. And I remember the lady who was doing the presentation was showing a slideshow and video of what chiropractors can do and what they can offer to the community, and some pretty awesome success stories of different mission trips and how chiropractors were helping people in other parts of the world. And I just felt like this massive pull on my heart, like, this is all you. This completely speaks about like what you want to do with your life and who you are. And I sat there in silence and complete amazement, thinking, holy crap, I know I don't want to be an athletic trainer, but this is something that is very interesting. Growing up, I always wanted to be a doctor. I thought the name Dr. Camacho was like a kind of like a milestone goal.
Yeah.
And just kind of like growing up, not many people before me, some didn't really finish high school, some did, and that was about it. No one did anything else. And I always wanted to be different. So setting myself up as like this, you always tell kids you could be whatever you want if you put your mind to, reach for the stars, et cetera, et cetera. And like a goal of becoming a doctor was so far that it was like, yeah, this is it. But I'm not smart enough to get to medical school. I don't want to do surgery. I don't like, giving people like prescription medications. Like, that didn't jive with me. So when I saw this opportunity to become a doctor in a kind of a homeopathic manner, it kind of got me going. And I'll never forget the girl I was sitting next to who was the president of the sports council, or the athletic training student council. She knew I wasn't happy with the major and leaned over to me as she was like ripping a Starbucks cup and goes, Ed, this is all you. And
you had you'd never been to a chiropractor before that, right?
Never, ever in my life. Never. I knew nothing about chiropractors until that 30-minute session. And this girl, like, I didn't even like tell her anything. She just knew I was unhappy being an athletic trainer. And out of nowhere, she was just like, this sounds like something you would definitely want to do. And I'm thinking like, holy crap, how does this girl know what the heck I'm thinking? But whatever. So I ended up going to chiropractic college. And during my time at Penn State, I was diagnosed type 1 diabetic.
Wow.
Which really made me look at health a completely different way, nutrition completely differently. And while I was in the hospital, I kind of made like this pact with myself that I wasn't going to let this, what the medical community would call a disease, stop me from doing everything I aspired to do in my life. And when I left the hospital after, about a week, I lost a bunch of weight and whatever. I started doing powerlifting and got somewhat good at powerlifting. I was approached by the Penn State powerlifting team to come check out our practice. I ended up joining the team, won my first competition, qualified for nationals, took top 10, all within about like my first 6 months.
Wow. So it just
And
came,
it
it
kind of
came
just
really
like,
natural to you then.
well, yeah, once I started taking my nutrition
Right.
serious and I was getting the insulin my body needed, and I was very focused on, I wasn't really much a big partier, so I was very focused on my training and what I was putting in my body. And I learned so much in the process, and it just became more interesting to me. So I ended up doing really well in powerlifting, went to graduate school. I ended up switching from powerlifting, going to Olympic weightlifting, doing pretty decent there, going to collegiate nationals for that as well. And like all this time, I've always been an athlete. I was always interested in sports chiropractic. Went on to get my international sports chiropractic degree so I can work different events throughout the world. And then I had this idea of writing a book. And growing up, I always have these crazy ideas, and I thought being an author would be a cool thing to have, like, say, yeah, I wrote a book, but I hated reading. I
Yeah.
hated books. I think I
So
was selling
it
more
was just kind of
books.
something that came into your mind and you thought, hey, this could be pretty cool just to write a book. So
Absolutely. And
yeah.
I was thinking, like, I don't like reading books. And at some point, one day, it hit me. To write a book, you have to start typing or writing or doing something. And I had nothing written down. I don't read any books, so I had no structure of how to do anything.
Yeah.
And I didn't really know how to study, like, until like studying for national boards for chiropractic school. Before that, I didn't really study. I would pay attention in class, and I looked at a test as like, all right, Eddie, let's see how much you remember.
Yeah.
Probably not the best approach, but whatever. Um, and I started, thinking, what can I write about? What would be interesting? And what I ended up doing was writing questions that I wanted to know, because through my athletic career and medical career, I've met a lot of really good athletes in different sports who have done a lot of phenomenal things internationally, within state level, or even on the Olympic level. So fortunate enough to have a couple emails and cell phone numbers and Facebook contacts with certain people. And I was just shooting out this little 6 question paper of what set you apart, what did you do different, what did you notice about other people, in your sport. And what it turned out to be was my own interest in questions to find out what made these athletes stand out. And the feedback I ended up getting had a common theme in all of the answers from all these different sporting, avenues, you can call them. And I started just writing on, as far as like medically, like what I feel an athlete could do, what an athlete should do, what are some weaknesses that common athletes have, and what do certain athletes have an advantage of over their competitors or teammates that makes them stand out. And then as a chiropractor, I'm pretty sure you get the same thing. You always get parents, coaches,
Yeah.
kids asking like the questions, whether it's for themselves or for their own children or team. But it became a common theme where everyone was asking me the same questions. And I
Right.
got tired of giving the same answers. So I put it in a book format on common weaknesses that anyone could really approach, look at, and evaluate in their own personal life or athletic life to improve their outcome. And I pretty much took that idea, broke the book up into 5 different sections, and focused a little bit on like the structure of the body, the nutrition of the body, the education of your body, and the sport you're doing. And it really just broke it down in a very, very easy to read way that pretty much you can blast through the book in 2 hours at a sixth grade level and come away with something.
Yeah.
And I feel like the last section of the book, it's called mental. It's labeled mental, part 5, mental. And what I actually found was in all of these athletes, ages from like, I think the youngest girl was 13 and the oldest person was 60 years old. And everyone had this weakness that they felt they could be better mentally. And the really good athletes had this strength that they were better mentally. And I broke that mental section into different kind of approaches or topics where someone can change their mindset to improve their athletic outcome. And that has lately been a very big, interesting factor for me because I'm starting to realize more and more that these athletes, these business professionals, whoever someone looks at as successful or talented or gifted, mentally they have something different that the competition doesn't.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
whether it's training, the drive to push themselves to throw up, if it's the drive to get up even when you don't want to get up, the drive to eat nasty food when everyone else is eating ice cream. Like there's something mentally that certain athletes have or are able to overcome and train that puts them in this focus zone that makes them unstoppable.
Yeah, it sets them apart. And you see it at like all the professional levels, definitely.
Absolutely. And I know a lot of like in powerlifting, I ended up progressing pretty quickly. One, because I was able to take insulin that my body was no longer producing, which obviously can be used as an aid in certain ways. But mentally, people ask, how did you get so strong? And I mean, I haven't trained powerlifting in years, but I could still pick up a 500-pound deadlift and not think twice about it. And I will probably be a little bit sore, but I won't break apart. And I think that's something that most trained athletes can look at as a natural approach versus a supplemented athlete. If you're supplemented and you take a lot of ergonomic aids, you're going to lose those gains. But if you are natural and you bust your butt over time, you can end up keeping those gains. So even though I don't look very big, I'm relatively stronger than I appear. And I like that. But when I'm talking to younger athletes or people, whoever the question comes up with, my simple answer is I'm crazy. And I'm willing to, sacrifice a Friday night to go sprinting at the track until I feel nauseous, or squatting until my legs are so jello that I literally want to throw up. I like that.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't like that. And
A lot of people
I tell
don't.
people I'm crazy. Like if I want to do something, my goal was to squat 500 pounds. And I wasn't going to stop until I get that. And now in my office, I have a, very large picture of me mid squat of my first time squatting 500 pounds with the most horrifying face. But it hurt. It was.
I might need you to send me that picture.
I can send it to you. Absolutely.
Definitely.
I'm looking at it right now. And people are like, wow, look at that face and blah, blah, blah. And it hurt. It hurt a lot. Under the squat suit, I was actually bleeding because of the gear I was wearing. It actually rips your skin while you're using it. And putting a lot of weight on your back doesn't feel good at all. But in my mind, I knew that it's either I successfully do what I have to do, the task in front of me, or I think about how much pain I'm enduring and I fall and get hurt.
Right.
And that stressful situation, when you train in that atmosphere and that mindset, it pushes you to a whole nother level. And I'm really big on the power of the mind and believing in something. I know a lot of times in powerlifting, it comes down to like the last deadlift, or in Olympic lifting, it's the last clean and jerk. Your coaches are moving your numbers around, trying to get you the best placement. And what I always tell my coaches and my handlers is, don't tell me how much weight is on the bar. Because psychologically, once you know how much weight's on the bar, you start psyching yourself out because you know it's heavy. If you know this is going to be hard, I don't need to know the number. It's going to be heavy regardless. just put on whatever weight you need, and I'm going to lift it because if I lift it, I win. If I don't make it, I lose. That's it. And using that mindset in competitions made me mentally advantaged over my competition because I knew, even though in powerlifting, I was probably the most, I guess, to the eye, I was not the most jacked person in my weight class. I was actually kind of a little skinny on the aspect of my body class. But psychologically, I knew I was willing to push myself to another level where I would actually tell myself, I'm either going to break my back before I let go of this bar. And that was my mindset. Mm-hmm. And that's very hard for some people to kind of grasp. It's also a little crazy for some medical people like me now. Probably not something I would tell my patients, put your mind in this place where you're willing to break a bone. But when it comes to competition, that set me apart. And I feel like that lesson and everything that I've learned from the strength sports, now I'm trying to slowly carry over into a professional field and a business field and relationships with my family and friends. And the mindset is really, I think, what sets a lot of people apart. And
no, it carries over. And I just did a podcast with Rebecca Soni, and she's one of the most, she's one of the fastest swimmers ever in the Olympics, and she's has all of these gold medals. And she said that's really, what set her apart is that she just had that mindset of she has to, be so focused on her goal, and she's competing against herself and not anybody else. And it's like you were saying, you see that on every level of people that are doing really amazing things, whether in sports or in business or in any avenue of life.
Yeah, actually, you just made me think of a book I just finished reading called Relentless.
Who wrote that? It sounds familiar.
I got to double check on that. It was an audio book. Maybe it's not Relentless. I'm pretty sure it's Relentless, but I'm gonna get Tim S. Grover, and he was pretty much a strength coach. He worked with people like Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan. He was pretty much
cool.
His claim to fame was being Michael Jordan's person, Dwayne Wade, Kobe Bryant, and he talked about all these athletes and all these people who were good to great to unstoppable, and their mindset and training and et cetera, et cetera. But there was a story he used in the book about Dan Gable, who was probably one of the greatest wrestlers ever, other than arguably Cael Sanderson. But Dan Gable, in the story, Dan Gable would go into a sauna and he would put this goal in his head that he wants to count 500 sweat droplets from his hands dripping onto the sauna floor. So he would go into a room with all these other wrestlers, world-class level wrestlers, and he wouldn't tell anybody. He wouldn't talk about it. But that was his mindset going into a sauna session. And he would sit there, not say a word, don't look at anybody. He would literally just watch his sweats of droplets, counting them, hit the floor in front of him, making a puddle until he got to 500. And then when he got to 500, he'd wipe his face, get up, and walk out. And more than every single time he ever did that, nobody can stay in that sauna longer than he could because they were thinking about how hot they were or how tired they were or how long the workout was and they want to go eat and their mind was on something else. But Dan Gable's mind was focused on the goal he set for himself.
Yeah, it's something as simple as sitting in a sauna. It makes
counting your sweat. It's crazy.
Right. Yep. No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool. So like you were saying, as far as one thing I wanted to kind of point out when you were talking about the actual lifting, I think it's awesome the way just that you worded it, because you were making it sustainable. Like, you could lift that now because you did it the right way over time, and now it's just a sustainable thing that has stayed with you. When you look at somebody that's looking more at the short term, and then you see injuries in your you're breaking body parts and you're breaking mindset. It just, it's all about being sustainable over time.
Right.
Yeah.
I think something I want to clarify, because I make it sound like I was just automatically strong in 6 months. My wife hates it because like I won't squat for like 3 months and I'll go back, and like within a week my legs blow up again and dress clothes don't fit right. And she's like, it just comes. And I have to always remind them, like, Jen, I've been squatting heavy for over 10 years.
Yeah.
Like at the time of my competitions, it was like between 7 and 8 years after I started squatting seriously. And that's years of training.
Right.
And having that mindset of training, I saw like a little, I guess, poster, squat till you puke, when I was like in high school. And it was like just this jacked guy standing on a squat rack, puking between his legs. And like that mental image stuck with me. So when I was 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, like that was my like measurement of a good workout for legs. So when it came to competition and pushing myself mentally, I'm crazy. And that's just what happens.
Yeah.
It takes years. It takes time. Anything in life, it takes time. And like just like the swimmer you were talking about, she didn't just start swimming to go to the Olympics. Like she's put in thousands of hours of training, learning her strokes and getting into these repetitions and learning the right, like pretty much the lifestyle it takes. It takes so much time, and now everyone just wants a quick fix for everything, and it's unrealistic.
It is. And that's why I love what you're doing because of everything that you've gone through, you're now giving back and like talking to younger athletes and talking to sports team. I know speaking is becoming more of like a thing you're trying to get into. So, if you want to talk a little bit about that and the results you're getting with younger athletes.
Right. Well, actually, if you can't tell by my excitement in my voice, I'm an extremely passionate person.
I love it though.
when I go into something, if I commit to it, I am committing with everything I have. And I know, like in my first ever weightlifting competition, I remember standing. I was at Penn State. I was in my apartment in my bedroom, packing my bag for the weekend, listening to music, and like folding my outfit nicely, like my socks, like everything I was wearing, separating it, and like had like an emotional moment where I was like so ready to compete that I could not hold back the excitement. And then after I made a specific deadlift that qualified me for nationals, I literally ran down the hallway in this hotel, ran up a random set of steps, sat at the top of the stairs, and had to like wipe tears from my face because I was at this like emotional high that I worked so hard. It was literally a year to the day of being diagnosed type 1 diabetic that I did my first competition.
Wow.
So like all the emotion, like the adrenaline, my coach is saying, if you pick this up, you're going to nationals, you're going to get the gold medal for your weight class. Like all of this emotion, I literally put everything I have into these activities for that one moment. And like the emotion that I put into something, right? I mean, I feel like if there's a part of the book, sorry, I mean, I keep going back to the book, but one of the last chapters of the book in the mental section is no passion, no purpose. And I feel like if you're not passionate about something, there's no reason to be doing it. You're wasting your time. You're wasting your very short life. When I was 16 years old, I lost a really good friend in high school. He was murdered on Christmas Eve.
Oh
and
gosh.
It's there's a song lyric that says, "It's funny how seeing death makes life so clear." And once you experience death and you realize how precious and short life is, it made me a little bit more riskier to do crazy things and believe in my ability to do so. So whatever I do, I'm going at it 100% fully passion. And when I did my first public speaking event, I went to the high school I graduated from, and I played football. And I approached one of my high school coaches, and he's like, "I don't even know what to expect from you." And I told him, "Coach B, you can expect a lot of passion." And he just smiled because he had no idea what the hell that meant.
Right.
But I want everyone, I mean, as far as like younger athletes and really anybody, I feel like life is very short, and we all have like a purpose to do something. We have a passion, we have a desire, we have this idea as a kid. If mine was to become a doctor, like we all have these ideas. And at some point through our life, we're either talked out of it, someone tells us we can't do it, you can't afford it, it's a take too long, it's not realistic. And that breaks my heart because I feel like who is somebody else to downplay whatever is in your heart?
Right.
And
well, when somebody puts somebody down like that, it's speaking more on themselves than it is the other person. But those things, you carry with you over time, and it is really unfortunate when it holds somebody back that has so much potential.
Yeah. And now I'm doing a lot of motivational speaking, more with the younger crowd, and people who kind of see themselves as lost, whether college aged or after college, they don't know what to do with themselves. But people, mostly younger kids who are looking for direction, or anyone who needs, I call it lighting the fire under their butt. Mm-hmm. They just need a little push down the hill or jump start of whatever they want to pursue. And I think, motivating someone to do something that they already have in their heart is extremely easy. And all you have to do is get the audience to listen to themselves. Because I'm not telling someone to do something they never thought of in their life. Mm-hmm. I'm telling them to do everything they think about but never talk about.
Right.
And I think it's powerful because it gets me excited. It gets me to become very emotional to help people. And when I start seeing the audience, the person, whoever it is, receptive and opening up and seeing their eyes light up and the twinkle in the eyes and the smirks coming out and seeing, their breathing change because they're talking about something that gets them excited, I feel like I'm helping somebody. And as a chiropractor, I have two hands. I can only adjust so many people in one day. And the way I look at it is, how can I help millions of people? Because there's so many people that need help. If you type in self-help books or motivation, everyone is looking for help for something, whether it's financial, goal setting, dreams, mm-hmm. Where to go to school, what sport to play, what should they eat, what diet should they follow? Like, everyone's looking for help. And gratefully, in our career, we can help a lot of people with our hands, and but our time is limited to that work day. Right. And if I don't separate time for my wife, my family, my friends, my siblings, then those relationships fall because I'm so focused on helping people around me. So how can I utilize myself and my passion to help millions of people? I'm just going to start talking to everybody I can. Whoever wants to listen to me, I'm going to talk. And it's turning into, a little bit of a side business, which is, always nice. But I feel like I'm helping more people that I don't even care how much they pay me. I'm not concerned about the money. I just want to help people. And when people say, like, what do you want to do with your life? I want to help people. I want to help millions of people. That is my goal, to help millions of people be the best person they can, to live as happy as they possibly can, and to let everyone enjoy the short time we have living on this earth. And that's something I'm very passionate about. That's something I try to do with my patients, with my staff. I told one of my staff members not too long ago, I don't want you to be here forever. I think you're a great employee, and I never want to see you go. So if you never go, then awesome. But that this particular staff member has a dream that they're working towards and they're chasing. And, they leave the office to go study in this particular field. And it's awesome because I want people to do things. When someone's, 40 years old and says, I always wanted to be a nurse, I always, wanted to do this, but I never got the chance, or whatever, that literally, like, emotionally breaks my heart to think that this person every single day is waking up and wasting their life with no purpose.
Yeah. Or they feel that they have to settle on something that doesn't make them 100% happy or 100% passionate. I mean, like you said, like, you just want to help people. You don't care about the money. And once people get to that point, it's really just a beautiful thing.
Absolutely. I mean, it's unreal how much I tell my patients I come alive. Like, when I'm working with them in the room, or if I'm talking on stage in front of a bunch of people, I literally come alive. And I feel like I'm not Dr. Camacho. I'm just Eddie talking to the crowd. Mm-hmm. And I don't like putting myself on a pedestal. I don't like people just because I have more student loans than someone else, look at me different. I'm just a normal person like everybody else. And I'm just trying to help as many people as I possibly can. My name is Eddie. Your name is whatever. And I'm here to help you. And I don't like when people put doctors on this pedestal, like, they need to be worshiped because they went to medical school. Like, that doesn't matter.
Right.
It doesn't matter. Like, yeah, we have a career, we have a job. When we're in the office with a patient, we have to do what we have to do. But I'm a human being like everybody else. I'm a person. Like, I am no different than anybody who's listening to this podcast.
Right. And I think people sometimes too, like, especially when you're up there speaking, like, they might assume like that you have it 100% all together when, we're all just learning all of the time and always getting better and never really fully made it. It's just like, every day is just all about getting better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely. Well, I know you wanted to talk about some stuff that you have planned for the future. I know you have a few things going on that you might want to share.
Yeah, well, I haven't really made this public, but I guess since you put me on the spot, I'm going to.
Oh, man, you don't have to, though. You don't have to.
No, it's good. It's good. So the first book I wrote, Athlete 25 Project, it was awesome. It was fun. It was exciting. It was a challenge to me. And once I wrote it, I realized I only did it to prove to myself that I could write a book, that I could be an author. And I think self-doubt is something that holds a lot of people back, and they sometimes do things to appease other people, maybe someone who has doubted them, whatever it may be. And I ended up writing Athlete 25 Project, having this kind of crossroad bridge where I didn't feel like it was good enough. I didn't want to release it, but I already did it. The book was in my hand. I designed everything. And I kind of was like, well, people aren't going to like this. I'm a doctor. This is not really this is not written for like the medical field. And I was really becoming self-conscious on what people would say. And I one day just kind of said, screw it. I don't care what anybody thinks. I realized that I only pursued this little road to prove that you could do and you can do anything you put your mind to, you can do it. I woke up every morning at 5 o'clock. I made a coffee. I sat down for an hour and I typed. And some days I would type nothing. Some days I would be completely mind blank. Other days I didn't want to stop typing. But after about 13 months, I had my first book. And now it's, I read the book, I wrote the book, and I don't feel fulfilled in my writing duties. I feel like there's more I want to talk about, and I want to get a little bit deeper, because my first book, I want it to be easy to read. I wanted anybody to grab it and blast through the book and be like, all right, I got something from this. But something that I think has within a lot lately, the last, I would say 6 months, is I'm not really happy of being diabetic. It is something that I have did within the last year. For the first 7 years of being type 1, I didn't really want people to know. I was very shy about it. I would tell people my insulin pen was a marker for autographs. I didn't want people knowing. I didn't want friends looking at me different who didn't know. I didn't want family members looking at me different. It really bothered me because I was the healthy kid. I took care of my body. I was very active. I exercised a lot. I ate a lot of good foods, and I was really big on nutrition. And I'm always thinking, like, why me? Like, why did I get this, and how did it happen? So I'm very curious in autoimmunity and how something can literally just happen and someone gets a disease or whatever. And I know it doesn't happen overnight. It takes time and things happen and there's stressors that are involved. But what interests me is all these studies. Everything is written about type 2 diabetes. All the research is about type 2. All the books are about type 2. And granted, there's a lot more people who have type 2, but I'm not type 2. So the research doesn't apply to me. It's not applicable for, whatever nutritional supplements I want to research or the type of lifestyle I want to live. The research isn't there. Um, and being a type 1 diabetic athlete,
I mean, there's no resources for that,
no,
Yeah.
there's not. I mean, there is a couple. There's a bodybuilder who's type 1. But something that I've learned, I didn't start powerlifting until after I became diabetic. And managing my blood sugar on a daily basis and training like a madman and being literally sick in the head, um, that was something that I balanced and managed myself with no guidance that helped me be. I mean, I don't really like talking about what I've done because it makes me feel weird, but I did pretty well in strength sports. I made a name for myself. I left my mark. And it was a great time in my life. Made a lot of good friends. And it was awesome. And what I'm currently working on is something along the lines of being a type 1 diabetic athlete. And on my desk right now in front of me, I have a research paper about how fasting conditions actually created a gene expression for the beta cells of the pancreas to actually regenerate in mice. And then the study was actually replicated in human beings with type 1. So pretty much the study is looking at type 1 and type 2 mice who were diabetic, were put on this particular fasting diet for a short period of time.
Like intermittent?
And temporary intermittent fasting for about a 4-day period. I mean, it gets kind of complicated. I haven't read the full study yet.
Gotcha.
There's like 20 more pages to go through, but it's pretty much a 4-day fast that actually stimulates the stem cells of the human body to recreate the gene expression for the beta cells to repair and create themselves again.
Wow.
And really intrigued my interest.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Definitely.
Yeah.
I'm going to have you email me that study too when we jump off.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'll get that to you. But they did it in the mice type 1. They did it in the mice type 2. They replicated it in a human type 1. And all of these instances were successful. Which is just, how can we reverse type 1 diabetes? I don't know yet, but when I remember the day I was diagnosed and I was in the hospital, the doctor said, you have autoimmune disease, you're going to have this forever. And I said, no, I'm not. And they looked at me like, yeah, you are. And I thought, no, I'm not. And they were like, well, yeah, you are. It's autoimmunity. Like, your body's attacking yourself. And what I said to them was, just because you can't figure it out doesn't mean I can't figure it out. And that's kind of stuck with me for a while, because just because a medical community hasn't figured out a way today, they label or automatically stamped, it can't be done. And I am a believer. I believe anything is possible. And, maybe in the past it has not been corrected, but that doesn't predict the future.
Exactly.
And that's just how I look at a lot of things. So when I see research like this, I get very interested. And throughout this whole athletic journey of being diabetic and also trying to, achieve my athletic goals, I learned a lot about myself on how to manage my body, what to eat, how to eat, when to eat, what supplements work best for me, what I shouldn't take, when I could take certain things, why diabetes is even, how does that work in my body? How does that differ from type 1, type 2? What are some potential causes of type 1? Now, there's a lot of theories out there, and they're all very interesting, and they all have a little bit of research behind them, but nothing's been proven. So I kind of let my mind go in these different directions, and I just kind of have fun with it. And I'm trying to start this little book. Right now, it's kind of labeled The Diabetic Athlete. I don't know if it's going to change. I'm still very much in the brainstorming, gathering a bunch of research. I have a bunch of things to go through, research and books and forums to read, and it's almost sickening. But When can someone expect this book to be done? Maybe a year, maybe 2 years. I don't know yet.
Right.
But it's something that will be a little bit more information intensive with a lot of research attached to it, a lot of theories by scientists, a lot of different approaches to artificial pancreas and insulin pumps that work kind of like an automatic insulin. So that's kind of where the book is going. I'm not really going to put up walls yet because I don't know where it's going to take me. But, I have a story to tell with my own journey, and I want people to learn from me because if it worked for me, it could possibly work for somebody else.
Definitely.
And the fact that I didn't have a resource to turn to when I felt like I probably needed one means there's an opportunity to create a resource for those who are looking after me. So we'll see. But yeah, that's kind
I
of
think
my
that's awesome. I think
project.
that'll do like really great. And like you said, if you can help just one person, and I know you'll help more than one person, then it's totally worth it.
Yeah, I'm excited. So
Yeah.
it's a little stressful because the more I dig into it, the more I find, and
Yeah.
it becomes very overwhelming. So I have to kind of do it in like spurts.
Hmm.
But I'm excited. I'm very
I'm
excited. It's
excited for
becoming
you. I
very
think that'll
fun.
be awesome. I can't wait for you to write it so I can read it all.
It's gonna be good. I'll let you know. Don't worry.
Yeah, definitely. That's awesome. Well, I think that's a good place to start wrapping it up. Did you have anything else that you wanted to share before we kind of jump off?
No, I'm just happy that I love what you're doing. I love this whole podcast, and I'm extremely kind of honored that you thought of reaching out to me, a couple weeks ago about joining on to here.
Yeah. Well,
It's
I've been
awesome.
yeah, no, I appreciate that. I've been keeping up with what you've been doing, and I love like-minded people. So the more I keep around, the better. So
That's awesome.
it's definitely great. But yeah, so definitely check out what Dr. Camacho is doing. Buy his book, Athlete 25 Project. It's available on Amazon. Check it out. Follow him on social media and on his website so you can keep up to date with what he's doing, what he's working on with his new project. And Dr. Edward, what is the best way for people to find you on social media and also your
Mm.
website? And then anything you
So,
give me, I'll put in the show notes so they can just click
oh,
away.
absolutely. So my Instagram is pretty much the only form of social media I have.
Okay.
So it's Doctor underscore Camacho, all of it spelled out. And my email address is ecamacho and then the letters dc@gmail.com. That's the best way for anybody to reach me. The website I had up for my motivational speaking, I kind of pulled down for the time being because I have a book, motivational speaking, and working on another project. It was just too much. I kind of want to tie everything up together. So right now, to keep things simple, the best way to follow me and what's going on in my life and what my new projects are is follow me on Instagram. And if you want to talk more, if anyone has questions in regards to what I'm doing or what I have done or wants to talk further, have more questions, feel free to email me. I love talking to strangers and kind of, establishing a little relationship and helping as many people as I can.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I really, really appreciate it.
Just thank you for having me again, Casey.